Hello, my name is Leonard Small. I am the pastor of the Litway Missionary Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia. I've been the pastor there for 35 years. Officially, I'm called the Reverend Dr. Leonard Small, and we'll get into all that terminology at some point in time in these lessons. I have been called from the streets to the pulpit, and I've been a pastor now, like I said, 35 years, but prior to coming to God, I was in the streets. I was a thug, so to speak. But God has given me the opportunity to study and to grow, and to develop as a minister, and I teach clergy around the world. My latest ventures have been the west coast of Africa, particularly in Liberia, where I am now called the missionary to the bush. They call it the bush, we call it the jungle. My daughter prevailed upon me that for most of the time that she's observed me, I've known and have taught a lot of things that are not practiced or taught commonly in the church today. So as far as what this is about, it's about the Bible and what it says and what it really means. It's about the church. Where did it come from? Where is it going? And what form is it supposed to be in at this juncture? That last circumstance being the fact that many organizations that call themselves churches now are not really churches. Now, I know that would seem to be an extreme statement, but if you will stick with this series, you'll understand that this is more than just an arbitrary opinion by some minister who wants to complain about the modern day church. So let us begin with the beginning. Let us begin with the beginning. If you're going to study the Bible, you need to understand that because we're not studying anymore, most ministers never have read the Bible from cover to cover. That is starting at Genesis 1 and going all the way to the end of Revelations. So how can you teach that which you do not know? How can you tell people where to go if you haven't been there? Or even have an idea of what's going to be there if you get there? The difficulty here is we have a problem with people who have not studied, saying they're inspired by God and starting organizations supposedly in His name that have no resemblance whatsoever to the Church of Jesus Christ. So let me begin by telling you a simple truth. When people read the Bible, if you don't read it, first of all, intelligently, that is, understanding what you're reading, it won't do you any good. Secondly, if after you even have the intelligence to read well, you're not inspired by God, you're still going to be confused. And thirdly, if you read the Bible with what you've been taught by others in mind, you're probably going to be in error, because most people have no idea what they're talking about. I'll give you a prime example. If you asked 100 ministers today, even people who've been in the clergy for years, on what day was Christ crucified, they will immediately tell you on Good Friday. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. You can't be crucified on Friday and get up on Sunday and be in the ground 3 days and 3 nights. So it's these type of fallacies, these types of misinformation that we've got to get out of the way, so that when people listen to us, they can expect from us the truth of Jesus Christ, of God who made Him, who sent Him to save us. So let's start with the words that the Bible starts with, in the beginning. First of all, when you read that sentence, I would say 97, maybe 99% of the ministers reading that sentence don't understand what it says. First of all, the word "the," in the beginning. In the original text, the was not there. So here's what I want you to realize. The word Genesis, which is Greek, it came from a Hebrew word, Berosheth. Now, it says Berosheth or shit here, Berosheth here, but sometimes it's pronounced as if the last T is followed by an H, Berosheth. But having said that, it simply means in beginning, not in the beginning. Because you can't have a the beginning. How can you have a the beginning if God is from everlasting to everlasting? If God is and always was and always will be, there can never be a the beginning. So when they translated the Bible, they would add words to make the sentences run smoother. And those words in the Bible, if you got a good Bible, are italicized. They got a little slant to them to show that they were inserted in order to make the sentences run smooth in our language. Now, so when you read in the Bible and you see a letter, a word that's italicized, realize it was added to the text. So instead of saying in the beginning, why don't you say what the Hebrew Bible would have said? In beginning. This could not have been the beginning because Christ, the Son of God, says in the garden in John 17, when he's praying, glorify me with the glory that I had with you before the world was. Okay? Glorify me with the glory that I had with you before the world was. So there was an existence of Christ with God. And he was not God, he was the Son of God, because he said, glorify me with the glory that I had with you, not as you, but with you before the world was. So, and we're going to get back to that concept that Christ is not God, but the Son of God who came down from heaven, who points to heaven all the time while he's on earth, saying, your Father and my Father which is in heaven. But let's just go with Genesis. So what Genesis means, or Berosheth means, is in beginning the creation of what we call the universe. In the beginning of the creation of time, in the beginning of the creation of the sun, moon, and stars, in the beginning of the creation of the world in which we live, and everything to do with it. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. You've got to understand God created it all, including Satan, including the angels, including demons, including man, including every entity, every item, every issue. Now, so in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And of course, many of you who are atheistic or agnostic or just think you're modern, so you don't really believe that the Bible is the Bible, that is the truth. You struggle with the idea of the prehistoric record, dinosaurs and whatever. So let me explain to you the in the beginning or in beginning. How could that be? How could we only have 7,000 years of human history in the Bible, and we've got tens of thousands of years, if not a million years, of fossil history? Well, here's the key. He said, let there be light. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the earth was void and without form. The words that are used, and I'm not trying to give you a Greek or Hebrew lesson, but the words that are used to say void and without form, it existed, but it had no purpose. It functioned, but it had no object of why it existed. The world as it stands would have no purpose until God put man in it. Because nothing in the world has the consciousness to appreciate its own creation. So when God said, let there be light, the light was that he gave man the ability to recognize, comprehend, and appreciate that there is God. So as we are going through this lesson, the first fundamental you have is creation. God created this. Now, some of you said, no, Darwin, the theory of evolution. First of all, it can't be a theory, because theories, by definition, if you use a scientific method, have to be repeatable and testable. You cannot start creation over, so you can't call it a theory. You can call Darwin's idea a hypothesis, but it can't be a theory, because theories have to be tested and repeatable. Secondly, it's wrong. So how do you know it's wrong? It's a simplicity. If evolution were real, then by definition it must be linear, which means it has to proceed directly with steps. So if evolution's real, there should be a monkey somewhere on earth just learning how to say good morning, just learning how to count to 10, just learning how to appreciate a calendar or some. We have no such thing. You go from primates to man, and they call it a gap. Okay, it's not a gap, it's a chasm. It's as far apart as the earth is from the nearest star. The difficulty is it's impossible for that to have been true, because the ecological record has no progressive steps to man with mind and thought. Secondly, you have this Big Bang theory for creation. So everything was in a small pack, and it just blew up, and from the small thing, the whole universe is created. Everything. Okay, that's dumb. Now, why can that be dumb? Well, first of all, in order for it to be that compacted, there had to be something that compressed it. Secondly, you can't get life out of that. You can blow up everything you know about. You won't get one iota of life. You can make the smallest, most simplest form of life out of nothing or anything or everything that we've got in the world. You can get all the chemicals, you can use all the science, all the physics, all the cultural dynamics. You can put the 9 best scientists who ever lived in a room. They cannot make one thing that lives. Life can only spring from something other than a bang. There's no chemical makeup, there's no physical process to make life. And so stop looking for something to come from outer space, because if it was coming, it would have been here by now. The point I'm making, though, is this, and I want you to understand it as best you can. God created man in his image and after his likeness. And he breathed into man, and man became a living soul. And if you would just do some mathematical extrapolation, it would make sense for us to be about the population we are if we started when God said we did. Having said that, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. Within 150 to 200 years, all over the planet, all of a sudden, there were pyramids built. God's trying to tell you something. That didn't happen by chance. God gave man intellect. God gave us what scientists call sapiency. That's why we're called Homo sapiens, the man, the primate that thinks. Even though they're wrong with their conclusion, they're right with that name, because God gave us the ability to think. Of all the creatures on earth, we're the only ones who will appreciate who God is and that he created us. And in the book of Revelations, it was said, when all of you were running around trying to say, I don't know why I'm here, I know God made me for a reason. The book of Revelation says God made us for his own pleasure. We're the ones who are able to please God the most. Matter of fact, at the end of the creation process, when he kept making things, he said, and that's good, and that's good, and that's good. And then when he made man in his image and after his likeness, he said, that's very good. And we've been able to be that one creature among all creatures that could please God, but vicariously and in direct opposition of that, we are the creature who can disappoint him the most because we have the most potential. We are the ones who can pray and God hears us. We're the one who God's waiting for us to change our mind and love him. Now, here's the thing. Why would God even make the world? David asked the question, what is man that thou art mindful of him? Well, if God has a conscience, and if we breathed into us and we became a living soul and we were made in his image and after his likeness, which is not physical, by the way. And the reason you know it's not physical is because we don't all look alike physically. But we're in his image in the sense that we have the ability to appreciate who we are and what we are, where we came from, and hopefully where we're going. So having said that, what you need to understand is that this God made us and we've disappointed him. I'm going to give you one extreme concept. Like the rest of that wasn't extreme, but let me give you one extreme concept. God does not know everything. I'm going to let that pause and sink in a little bit. God does not know everything. Prove it small. Okay. God told Jonah to go to Nineveh, that he was going to destroy the people. When God saw that they repented and fasted, the Bible says God repented of the evil that he was going to do. In other words, God changed his mind. God has expected us to do certain things when he created us. In the book of Genesis, he said, God observed, and we would do everything evil that we would imagine. And the Bible says, and it repented God that he even made man. And that's when he destroyed us. So if God was surprised at our depravity, then he must not have planned our depravity. Lastly, he has these words, whosoever will, let him come. Therefore, God does not know who will choose him. If he already knew who would choose him, then it wouldn't be a choice on our parts. This is Reverend Dr. Leonard Small, and this is the beginning of a series of lessons on what the Bible says and what it means. And if you have enjoyed this study behind me. If you think I've said something wrong, contact me. You can use the site on the internet where you see this. Contact me directly, challenge me, ask questions, give opinions. Let us learn more about God together. And if I'm wrong, I don't mind being corrected. But if you're not following God, you need to be corrected. This is Reverend Dr. Leonard Small with an expose on what it means to be in the world that God created. God bless you and keep you, as always, is our prayers. Thank you.